Hello crocheters, welcome to Crazy Cool Crochet. This is Sylvia. In today's project we are going to be working on this crazy cool crochet pullover. The materials we are using: number 4 yarn, medium weight. The color combination is what really makes this project pop. So I'm using a bright red and a hot pink. You'll also need scissors, a yarn needle, a measuring tape might come in handy, and 2 hooks. So I'm using a G hook or a 4.25 millimeter and an H hook or a 5 millimeter. Now you will find the detail as to how much yarn is used, how to work different sizes. That will be in the description area below the video. I always say you have to manually open that up so you can see more detail. So you will find in the white space below the video, it will say show more, or depending on the device that you're using, there might be a little arrow, a little V next to the name of the video. So look for that, click it, open it up, and find more detail. Also, you will find sizing instructions over at my blog, crazycoolcrochet.com. And the written printable pattern will be at my Etsy shop. So I will leave the link again below in the description area. Let's get started. I wanted to start by showing you a completed panel. And we will be making 2 identical panels, one for the front, one for the back. There is no increasing, no decreasing, just straight panels, nice and easy. Now I wanted to point out the ribbing. It's not your traditional like 3-inch or so ribbing. This is a little tiny 1-inch ribbing. And this is not meant to create the gathered bottom. This will be a straight bottom for the most part. And the ribbing is more or less decorative. So as you can see, we've got the hot pink on the ribbing, the bright red for the majority of the body, and then the hot pink on the top. We will start with the ribbing and then work the body from the ribbing up. For the ribbing for the front panel, we will start with a chain of 5. And this is for the size small. Remember, sizing detail will be over at crazycoolcrochet.com. Okay, so chain 5 with the smaller hook. Now we're going to work in single crochets in the second chain from the hook. Do not count the loop on the hook. There's the first one, there's the second chain. Single crochet. And in each chain across. Yes, all 4 chains. This is a tiny little ribbing. Chain 1, turn. Now, for the rest of this, we are working in the back loop only. As you can see, the 2 strands that make up a chain. So you're working into the back loop of that little chain. That's what creates the ribbing. Chain 1, turn, and repeat. Chain 1, turn, and keep going. So for the size small, we will work for 83 rows. And because it's only got the 4 stitches, it works up pretty quickly. So 83 rows. And by the way, this is the right side, because when you get to row 83, you will be on the right side. And here is the tail for the foundation chain. So that's how we know this is the right side. Okay, now I'm just working with a swatch here to show you how to do the stitches. So the next thing we're going to do, when you finish your last row, we're going to bring in the red. So work a chain 1, now what we're going to do is work along the long edge and start working our way up the panel. We're going to enter a single crochet into the end of that last row that we did. And then chain 1. We are working with the moss stitch, M-O-S-S. Super easy. Okay, now I want you to pay attention here because this will be important as to where we are entering the hook. Okay, so you can see the ridges. Okay, so every other row was a ridge. Okay, so there's the first row that we did. That would be 2. 3 is inside. 4. 5 is inside. Okay, so we did a chain 1. Now we're going to skip the ridge and we're going to single crochet into the end of the row that's indented. That's the easiest way to look at it. Single crochet, chain 1. Skip the ridge, go into the indented row for a single crochet, chain 1, skip the ridge, go into the next row. So we're single crocheting into every other row, but it has to stay with that indented row so that we keep our stitches, our stitch count. Okay, now when you get to the end, you will have this last little space. You don't want to end right there because then you've got this sticking out. That's not a good look. Okay, so you did your last chain 1 and go ahead and enter another single crochet into that last little space. And then chain 2 and turn. Okay, now for the size small, you would have 43 single crochets. So you're counting that first one that you did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'll have 43. And you'll keep the same count for the entire panel. And we're going to turn and we'll start our first single crochet, and each single crochet thereafter will be going into the chain 1 spaces. Okay, so the first one is right in here. Single crochet, chain 1. Go into the next chain 1 space. Okay, so this first row might be a little bit more difficult to see, but there's your single crochet. So go into the space between the single crochets. And chain 1. Okay, so go into the space between the single crochets with a single crochet, chain 1. Single crochet, chain 1. And do that all the way across. And don't forget your last one. There's the 2 strands that make up that last stitch. Chain 2 and turn. And you will repeat that for the entire panel. That's it. Nice and easy. So just make sure that you keep the same stitch count for the whole panel. And you'll need 2 panels. Of course, we will come back when we finish with the red. Okay, so for size small, we will work 64 rows. So that very first row that you started the red, that'll be row number 1. So we did 2 rows so far. You need 64 total. And then we'll come back for 65 and bring the pink in and finish it off with the pink. Okay, now I want to show you when you are done with your last red row, we are bringing in the pink. And you should be on the wrong side now with that last row. Okay, so start that last single crochet. You've got your 2 loops on the hook. Bring in the pink. Now finish that single crochet with the pink and chain 2. Then you can cut off the red. Turn and then just follow the pattern. That's it. So now with the pink, you will work row 65 through 76, size small, and then you can cut off the pink. Now for the sleeve, we are working with the same pattern. You will do the entire thing in pink. So the little ribbing and the body of the sleeve, all pink. So the ribbing, we do the same size. So we start with the chain 5 and we work for 4 single crochets. And we're working for 51 rows of the ribbing. And then we continue with the pink, same as we did for the front and back panels. And for this we will work for 27 single crochets. So we're only counting the single crochets when I give you that count. Okay, so we're not counting the chain 1 spaces when I give you that count. Just the single crochets. So we will do that for a 3/4 sleeve, which is how I designed it. We'll do 44 rows. If you want a longer sleeve, just continue with your rows for however long you want. If you want shorter sleeves, make fewer rows. So when you're done with your front and back panel, your 2 sleeves, we will attach all the panels. Now we are going to attach the front and back panels at the shoulders, and make sure that you've got wrong sides facing you. Right sides are touching each other. So we're working on the wrong side. Now for this, I wanted to have a nice wide neckline. So I'm going to seam about 4 inches from the shoulder to the neck on each side. If you want a narrower neckline, then seam a little bit longer. And for this, we are going to use just a regular yarn needle and thread. So I insert the needle in the cornermost stitches, and you want to make sure you're under 2 strands on each panel. So you're going under those chains at the top. I like to tie the ends just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then all you're doing is going around using a whip stitch. And that's all you're doing for however many inches you want to make your shoulder seam. Then cut off the yarn and then repeat on the other side. Now we'll attach the sleeve to the body, and you want to find the center of the sleeve, the top part, and use a stitch marker. I just use a contrasting piece of yarn, and I mark the center of the sleeve edge and match it up to the shoulder seam. Of course, everything is wrong side up. Then just use the same whip stitch to seam along the edge. And I turn the panels this way. There's the neck opening, so I can seam coming across this way. Now the next thing to do is to seam the sides and under the sleeve. Same whip stitch. The next thing we will do is add a single crochet border, just one row, along the neckline just to clean it up a little bit. So use the larger hook and the pink yarn. So we are working right side facing us. I usually insert the yarn in the seam with a chain and then just start inserting a single crochet as evenly as possible around the neckline. So it does not necessarily need to be in every single stitch, especially if you want to tighten up the neckline a little bit, then you can skip a stitch here and there, and that will tighten it up. When you come back around to where you started, just slip stitch into your first stitch and then tie it off. Now this is optional, but I think it really makes a difference to the finished pullover. Little tiny pockets, 2 little tiny pockets that will go in the front. This is 3 inches by 3 inches, and it's worked in red. The ribbing, start with a chain 4, and you will work for 3 single crochets. We'll have 11 rows, and then work your moss stitch, same as for the body. Now this is actually upside down. Okay, so we are working the ribbing and then the body. So we will have 7 single crochets along each row, and we're working for 9 rows up and down. And then when we attach the pocket, we're turning it upside down. And this is the right side. There's the foundation chain tail from the ribbing. So yes, technically these stitches are upside down, but we won't tell anybody. Crochet is an art, not a science. Okay, now to place the pockets. Again, you want the ribbing at the top, and just make sure that they're evenly spaced. Place them wherever you like. I attached a stitch marker over here just to secure it as I am seaming. So then just use a regular whip stitch around here, the bottom, and up the other edge. And that's it. It adds a really cute finishing touch. And there she is, the completed crochet moss stitch pullover in color blocks of pink and red. If you decide to make this, let me know in the comments below what colors you are going to choose. The combinations, color combinations are endless. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. That would be so helpful to me. And I appreciate your support as always. So please look around. There are many, many other really cool, crazy cool crochet projects here on my channel. See you on the next one.